Hey everyone, and welcome back or welcome to the channel. We have returned with the 2026 Toyota 4Runner Trailhunter, and in today's video we are going to do a fuel economy run out of this body-on-frame SUV. I know, might be laughable. However, the 4Runner is having one heck of a year. It might be due to the fact that there's a lot more of these in circulation at dealerships, or possibly because with the hybrid powertrain, sales are up near 200%, and buyers are looking for fuel efficiency anywhere they can get it. Considering this vehicle does have 33-inch all-terrain tires, a ground clearance of 10.1 inches, and a towing capacity of close to 6,000 pounds, this might be a great getaway vehicle for you and your family. So I want to see what the fuel economy is out of this 2.4-liter turbo to see if this might be a great choice for you if you are looking for a great all-around daily driver. Now, before we dive into this video, let's go over the parameters and also do a little bit of a refresher here as to what this SUV is offering in terms of performance. Under the hood, you are going to have that 2.4-liter turbo producing 323 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. It will be paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and we have a part-time four-wheel drive system. With the 4Runner, regardless of powertrain, whether it's the full gas-powered version or the hybrid, you are going to have a fuel tank capacity of 19 gallons. And for this particular model, with it being a hybrid, you're looking at right around 23 miles per gallon in the city and 24 miles per gallon on the highway. So hypothetically, for this highway run, we should get close to 450 miles on a full tank. Getting into the guidelines for this particular test, we are going to stick to factory requirements. So for the 4Runner, believe it or not, they do recommend 87 octane, which thankfully with this 19-gallon tank, I'm going to be saving some money here instead of going with premium fuel. So we're going to do 87 octane. When it comes to being on the highway, we are going to set the cruise control to 65 miles per hour. Traffic shouldn't be bad today because it is a holiday weekend. And also, with it being a holiday weekend in July, it is very hot up here. Believe it or not, it is not even 9 o'clock in the morning. It's 84 degrees. So this is probably going to be the best time for me to do this test and be fair, because when we get to about 11, 12 o'clock, we should be getting close to 100 degrees on this trip. Speaking of the trip itself, how far are we going? 50 miles down and 50 miles back for a 100-mile trip here should give us an accurate reading as to what this 4Runner is going to offer us. And then the last guideline here is going to be the drive mode. I could hypermile it and be an eco, but we're going to stick with normal for this test. Obviously, sport mode will drink up the fuel just a bit more, so I want to keep things pretty light here, pretty casual. Also, one more thing I do want to point out is the fact that we're not towing anything. So for those of you who are going to be towing a boat or RV, this might not be an accurate test for you, but for those of you just going on a road trip with the family, this might actually be rather helpful. All right, so we have filled up the 4Runner with 87 octane. We are ready to rock and roll on this trip. I'm hoping to at least get 24 miles per gallon. I'm really hoping. That's why I want to do this a little earlier in the morning, especially since it's going to be close to 100 degrees. I will interject at times during this drive. I have it on a time lapse here, and let's just relax and enjoy. We got adaptive cruise control in the 4Runner and active lane tracking. So I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on the active lane tracking because I did test it out last night. It's a bit rudimentary, it's a bit rigid in my opinion, but this is only the second vehicle I've ever done a test like this before, so I think we're just going to take it easy on this one and don't look at that as being a negative or a criticism, just an observation. Because we have this tester for the week, we're going to be trying out the sound decibel reader. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I feel like this is going to be a more accurate representation instead of just saying it's rather quiet in here. With the Toyota 4Runner, I have to say, considering we have 33-inch all-terrain tires and off-road tuned suspension, the interior insulation is pretty good. So let's see what we can get here at 65 miles an hour. If you guys can see this on the screen, we're consistently doing between 68.5 decibels and 69. This is the first model we're testing, so take a mental note of this. This will be useful if we get a vehicle in this particular class in a couple of weeks or months. So about 10 minutes into this drive, we are heading southbound. We are currently at 20.6 miles per gallon. Not sure if you guys can see that on the digital gauge cluster. Worth mentioning is that the outside temperature is 90 degrees and it's only 8:56 in the morning. I do have the AC on at its lowest temperature and lowest fan speed. So that shouldn't be playing around too much with the MPGs. But I'm curious to see that if we continue going south here and at this particular speed, which I'm getting passed by everybody right now, hopefully we can get over 24 miles per gallon. It's the way back I'm a bit more concerned because it should be getting a bit warmer, closer to 100 degrees, depending on how hot it gets in the morning. And then also, of course, we're heading northbound. So I'm staying optimistic here. Chiming in once again, we are a quarter of the way through on this fuel economy run. I'm currently averaging 22.5 miles per gallon. I gotta say, this 4Runner is struggling uphill when it comes to the fuel economy. It is really drinking it up with the adaptive cruise control. And that's what's really hurting the numbers right now. Some of it could be because we have a 90-degree temperature outside. Could also be the fact that we have this high-mounted air intake. I'm pretty sure some of this is all playing a role. The 33-inch tires, the high-mounted intake, the fact that this is not going to be an economical trim whatsoever. But we are not hitting the marks that we need to, which is kind of disappointing me. Fuel economy aside, though, it's actually been a rather pleasant experience so far. About, maybe 25 minutes into the drive. With 33-inch all-terrain tires, the old man EMU shocks, you would expect that this would not be a comfortable or enjoyable on-road driving experience, and yet it is. And that's what makes, I think, this 4Runner Trailhunter a great road trip vehicle, right? If you're going on longer road trips, you're towing something, maybe you're going to be overlanding at the end of your trip, the end of your journey, you can get there comfortably. I'm still going to note, though, that with these seats, yes, they're plush, yes, they're comfortable, but I just can't get comfortable in these seats. So that's one thing I'm still going to note here on this drive is that when you get to about an hour or 2 hours, at least for myself, I start noticing some back pain. I just want to put that out there. I mean, again, for most of you, you might really enjoy this vehicle. For myself, for my body frame, for my seating position, it's just not working out. What's also worth mentioning here, and this is not a big complaint, but just something that, considering it is a $70,000 SUV, I would expect better, especially from Toyota, is that this lane tracking or lane tracing assist, it's very inconsistent. It will turn off and you're going straight. There's just times where it says it's unavailable. That I don't like seeing, especially at around $70,000. I want to see a more reliable safety system and travel assist for Toyota. So we're just about ready to get off the highway here. I'm currently averaging 23.4 miles per gallon. We're almost done with this leg of the trip. This is the best fuel economy I've seen so far, and I do think we're now within the margin of error because Toyota does rate this at 24 miles per gallon. Hopping outside the 4Runner as I'm going to be stretching my legs a bit and preparing for the second half of this trip. We got 22.8 miles per gallon with the 4Runner Trailhunter. If you want to do some math there, 23.8 times 19, because we have a 19-gallon tank, you are going to have right around 450 miles of range here out of the 4Runner. Now, I got to remember one thing too out of this SUV. It's body on frame. It's a truck, basically. It's not going to be the most economical SUV out there. I also need to keep things into perspective, that the 4Runner is going head-to-head with the Bronco, with the Wrangler, with the Ineos Grenadier, and none of those vehicles are really economical either. To get 24 miles per gallon on the highway out of this SUV is actually quite impressive. Now, I still want to temper my own expectations here because we did go southbound. We still have to take that trip up north and traffic is starting to build. So if we can average somewhere between 22 to 24 miles per gallon on this trip in total, I'm going to be very, very happy. So just about ready to set off for the second half of this trip. One more thing I want to say here. When we get to the gas station, we're only going to use one click. One click, everyone knows the rules. I know some people do a different method, but we're just going to do one click and see what we get. Right now at around 22.8 miles per gallon, I'm hoping that stays consistent the rest of this drive, because if so, you have an economical body on frame SUV here that honestly gives you the performance necessary to tow things and also give you the performance where this can be a fun daily driver. So let's head off, let's get back to that gas station and see what we get. So back on the highway, this is going to be the big test. We're going northbound and hopefully we don't hit any traffic. Like I said, if we can average between 22 and 24 miles per gallon, I'm going to be pretty happy with this test. One thing I do want to say here though, out of the Trailhunter, is that the longer I drive it, the more I appreciate it. But I gotta say, the novelty is wearing off. I might not be the ideal buyer for the Trailhunter. But considering the fact that we do have a purpose-built SUV like this, and we have that snorkel or high mount intake, it is pretty fun. It really is. And I think the most important aspect here is that on those longer road trips, is it comfortable? Is it suitable? And I do think it is. You know, interior installation is where you're going to have to go back and forth on it, probably maybe compare this to a Lexus GX. But considering what you have here in this market to choose from, the Bronco, the Wrangler, the Ineos Grenadier, I mean, we're not talking quiet vehicles by any stretch of the imagination. But I will say this, though, that there are things that I don't like about the Trailhunter that I would probably look at other trims, where I think that a Limited or even a Platinum would be a better choice. Maybe even the TRD Pro, because you don't get that snorkel. And I have to say, at times it feels like you're driving a diesel. It's like driving a diesel SUV. And I like it because I like having the turbo spool, but I know a lot of you are going to get sick and tired of that Monday through Sunday on a weekday road trip, or just, you know, maybe going to work. And that's where I think that with the Trailhunter, it's purpose-built, it's for a specific type of buyer, because I just can't see someone living in a metropolitan area owning this and maybe going off-road 2 or 3 times a year. Because I think at that point it just doesn't make sense. But for those of you who do constantly overland and you're wondering, oh, you know, I don't really want an SUV that's going to be abusive with the old man emu shocks and having an off-road suspension, on the highway it just glides. It is smooth. But I will say though, that there are 11 other trims you can choose from. And that if you don't need a slow rock crawler, the Bilsteins on lower trims might be more than adequate. And with this being a body-on-frame SUV, you might like having the more luxury aspects that come along with a Limited or Platinum. Leather trim seats, better technology. And that's where I would say, take your time with the 4Runner, because the Trailhunter is pretty cool. It's a great SUV, and I think it's worthy of being a competitor to the Bronco and Wrangler. It's just that if you're someone who isn't going to be using this for what it's intended for, then it might be wiser going with the lower trim like a TRD Sport Premium, Limited, because you're going to have a lot more fun with those vehicles on road. Whereas this, I think you're going to be much more apt to take on any conditions, any trails, any terrain in your area, and it's designed that way, and it's going to entice you to do so. And that's why with the fuel economy, I'm not going to sit here and be too critical, because I know this vehicle is designed for a different purpose than fuel economy. One last update on this 100-mile round trip. We are now officially at the 3/4 mark, so about 75 miles in to this road trip. And we're averaging 22.1 miles per gallon, so as expected, going northbound, we are losing a bit when it comes to that fuel efficiency. I expect this to drop a little bit more as we get closer to the gas station. Now, one thing to remember here is that with Toyota and the hybrid model, you're looking at 23 miles per gallon city, 24 miles per gallon on the highway. So if we can stay within that number, I don't want to drop below 22 miles per gallon. With all things considered, it's 94 degrees outside. It's only 10:30 in the morning. So with the AC running, this is still pretty good for summer driving. You know, I would expect a little bit less with that fuel economy with all things considered. So we'll see what we get at the gas station, but so far so good. All right, we're pulling into the gas station here. And on the gauge cluster, it says 22.5 miles per gallon. So we improved. We improved before we entered the gas station here. Really nice.
Don't miss a second of the fastest racing on Earth.
One click. Everyone knows the rules. All right, so we are back home after this 100-mile round trip. Let's see what the fuel economy is for the 2026 Toyota 4Runner Trailhunter. Let's do some math. 100 divided by 4.285 equals 23.3. So 23.3 miles per gallon. That is better than what we're seeing here from the digital gauge cluster. So Toyota's being a bit more pessimistic when it comes to fuel economy, and yet we did a bit better. So in some ways we kind of overachieved there, but still within the margin of the overall fuel economy. Let's do some more math. Let's multiply this by 19, because we have a 19-gallon tank. So multiply by 19 equals 443 miles. Really not bad. So we're within that margin of error. I'm going to say this. I think the 4Runner for the Trailhunter is rather efficient, relatively speaking. But one thing to keep in mind here. One, I had the AC running. It's 94 degrees outside. But then two, don't use this as a measurement for a Limited, for a Platinum, because they don't have 33-inch all-terrain tires. Maybe with smaller tires, no off-road suspension, we could get better than 24 miles per gallon on the highway. Either way, though, we didn't see a massive drop going uphill, going northbound. I'm pretty happy here, and I think this was a successful test. So guys, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the 2026 Toyota 4Runner Trailhunter? Is this efficient for its class, or could it be a bit better? Also, let me know how I can improve on these tests, because now that I'm going to be getting vehicles like this every single week, we're going to take a deeper dive into the fuel economy. But guys, once again, thanks so much for watching, take care, and I will see you guys next time.